So I will be running this meeting, and I invite you, Jay, to remind me if I miss something along the way.
I'll do my best.
All right, so we can call this planning board meeting to order. Welcome to the June 1st, 2021 planning board meeting. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
They rise with
Allegiance.
Okay. If we could do a roll call of members. Kate Stevens, Vice Chair.
Kimberly Queenan, Selectmen's Rep.
James Buffetti, member. Ron Stevens, member.
And I am going to ask if we could do a roll call vote for each vote this evening so that I can get a better idea of everybody's votes, because it's hard to hear, the group vote over the remote. Let's see. All right. So first on the agenda is any public input of non-agenda items. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak? Okay, hearing none, I will close public input. And first up, we have Mr. Perlman on a conceptual presentation of Barron's Major Brands proposed warehouse, tax map 22, lot 4 and 96. Mr. Perlman, would you like to start?
Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening. Andy Perlman, attorney with Prunier and Perlman of Nashua. I'm here on behalf of Barron's Major Brands Appliances. We thank you for the time tonight. This will take maybe 10, 15 minutes just to explain what we're doing. We know you have an agenda item after us, so we'll be quick. We wanted to introduce this project to you because we recognize that this is a significant project coming to town. And we want everyone on the same page as to what is being discussed and presented. We had a really good meeting with all Litchfield staff. We had a meeting with the Board of Selectmen last week, and so we're here to you tonight just to introduce the project. But before I do, please let me introduce Brian Ellis of Barron's Major Brands. Barron's Major Brands is a second-generation family business. It is owned and operated by 3 cousins, Mike Barron, Dave Suter, and Brian Ellis, who is with us here tonight. Barron's is a small company. They just sell and distribute large kitchen appliances through their 7 stores in southern New Hampshire. They currently have 3 warehouses scattered about in southern New Hampshire, and the hope is to consolidate those warehouses into a 132,000 square foot warehouse here in town. Barron's has a contract to purchase the last remaining large tracts that the Colby family owns north of New England Small Tubes and south of St. Francis Way. The project will be accessing entirely off of St. Francis Way. Jay, if we could possibly bring up the plan that shows there are 2 sheets of the plan I wanted to show with the board tonight. Here's the existing site. You can see we are north of New England Small Tubes. In the lower left-hand corner, the new building, that is the Keystone Automotive, the LKQ building that was recently permitted and built out. So we are north of those parcels. There are 2 parcels that we have under contract, and according to the tax maps, it's just under 30 acres. Access to the site will be entirely from St. Francis Way. You can see that there's a 50-foot right-of-way in between the homes along Charles Bancroft. We will not be using that. And the reason we will not be using that is why we believe this project can be such a success. The topography of this site is such that the building will not be seen from the Charles Bancroft Highway. The building will not be seen by the homes along Charles Bancroft. It really drops off, and that works in our favor to hide the building, to maintain the look and feel of Litchfield as it is today. And so, Jay, if we could move to the next slide, or the next sheet. We would be proposing to take a driveway off of the right-of-way at the end of St. Francis, as you can see. And as we come down the hill, we will have an employee parking lot. We anticipate approximately 50 employees at this site. And then there's the truck parking and access in the back. We are showing a proposed warehouse of 132,000 square feet. This is conceptual at this point. There have not been any detailed engineering plans prepared just yet. This was just a high level, high altitude view of the project as it stands today. The site will be serviced by tractor trailer trucks, I believe. I hope I get this right, but it's 3 a week or 3 a day. I forget. Maybe Brian can help me out with that. But the tractor trailer trucks come from certain suppliers, and Barron's has had a long time relationship with this supplier, and so we can control when those tractor trailer trucks show up at the site. And I say that because we are very mindful of our neighbor to the north, St. Francis Church, and the school, and we will be working with them to work out the schedules. I had a good long talk with Christina Gerard, the business manager for St. Francis, last week or maybe the week before, explaining what we do, and she likewise explained their timing and school drop-offs and pickups. We will be working in and around and with St. Francis to make this project a go. The warehouse itself will be typical warehouse services. There'll be approximately 8,000 to 10,000 square feet of office space in the warehouse, but the rest will be warehouse with deliveries and then loading up of the Barron's box trucks in the morning, and then they take off for the day. The vast majority of traffic will be taking a left onto Charles Bancroft, heading north toward the New Hampshire highway system. There could certainly be occasional trucks taking a right if there's a service call to Hudson or Litchfield, or delivery to some of our towns around Litchfield. But the vast majority of all the traffic will be coming and going to the north to get on the highway system just over the line in Manchester. We are well aware of the environmental contaminants on the site. Eric Teal, is our geotechnical engineer. He has been working very closely with DES. He knows all the status and the standards of what DES is going to be looking for. And the long and the short of it is we have to keep materials on site. We do not want materials leaving the site, and we are aware of that. We will be planning for that. The proposed use is not an allowed use in the Northern Commercial District. Earlier today, I was working on a draft of a variance application. It is our hope that the zoning board has a quorum so I can present a variance request on July 14th. If we are successful with the zoning board, we will be coming to you folks with a full site plan application. And there's one more sheet I want to show you folks. Jay, if you can get to the third one that had the elevation. It's a little difficult to see, but the elevation on the bottom portion of this sheet of plans, on the right-hand side of that, there's a little shape of a house at the top. And then there's the line indicating the slope of what we have out there today. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a sight line coming off the house, and the sight line goes over the top of the building. This building will be 28 feet tall, I believe, 28 to 30 feet tall. And if you're in the backyard, if you're at that house, you won't be seeing our building. And in addition, we will be offering up some type of screening or trees or arborvitae or something along our eastern property line, just to create a further buffer if those homeowners want it. It occurred to me that some homeowners may not want a buffer. They like the look of what they have out there today. So we will be offering that up if we get to the full site plan process. The hours, the typical hours, some of their staff start showing up around 5 or 6 in the morning, and they're there till 5 or 6 at night. No surprise in the hours. There are no deliveries on Mondays, closed on Sundays, no delivery Mondays. But the deliveries are Tuesday through Saturday morning. We'll have trucks coming and going. And I believe that's my overall introduction. We are working with DOT right now. Brian Pratt, who you may remember for the Keystone Automotive, LKQ, project just below us. He is our project engineer. He currently has scheduled the DOT meeting, scoping out the traffic analysis that we will be doing and presenting to the town. And we have a full team raring to go. Again, this is a sizable project for Litchfield. We want everybody to have all the facts as we have them, as we develop. And we'd be happy to answer any questions. And perhaps Brian, maybe you can chime in to see if I misstated anything. Who's Brian? Well, if not, Madam Chair, we'd be happy to answer any questions from the board. Again, it's a working process, and we hope to be before you, if all goes well, early fall.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the board have any questions?
I have a question. Did I hear you correctly when you said that they're closed on Sundays?
Correct.
Thank you. So it sounds like that there are two types of trucks. There would be the big trucks, and then the delivery vehicles. Is that right? Did I understand that right?
That's correct. There are the tractor trailer trucks delivering product to the warehouse, delivering refrigerators and ovens and our other dishwashers and whatnot. And those, I believe, and I apologize for not having these numbers correct, but it's just two or three a day, not many over the course of the week.
Okay.
The diagram that you see has I don't know, looks like 10 trucks. We will not have 10 trucks there at any one time, but we have to show that just to show that the turning movements can work on the site. And then we have a number of box trucks that will be here and delivering over the day. They load up in the morning and take off for the day.
And do you have an estimate yet of the number of box trucks that would be in and out of that facility in a given day?
Excuse me. Brian could correct me on this, but we have 10 to 15 box trucks, what we have for Barron's today. And we expect that to be the same.
Okay. So, but could they do multiple deliveries? I'm just trying to get a sense of how much traffic. Maybe
Sure.
it's too early in your process to know that.
They certainly could. There's nothing prohibiting, but they generally do not. It's more efficient to load up for the day, make their deliveries, and then they come back 4 o'clock and start loading up for the next day is the typical operation. You know, if they have a local delivery, that sure they can come back, but they generally don't.
Okay.
And that
And you
will,
said, sorry,
Go
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that will all be hashed out with the DOT traffic scoping study that will be done.
Yep. And you said what, 50 employees
Yes.
that will be regularly working there? Does that include the truck drivers?
Yes, a handful of truck drivers, not too many, but a handful of them take the trucks to and from work. But yes, there'll be 50 employees, showing up each day to the site.
Okay. Yeah, this would be something I think it'd be worth a site walk at some point.
Oh, sure.
I'd like to see that area. I'm familiar with the church, but I'd be interested. It's hard to conceptualize it based on these drawings, which we don't have yet. So at some point, maybe it's just a field trip someday to go out and take a look at it myself. But the traffic concerns, I think, as it wouldn't be any surprise to you, right? That's going to be probably a key issue that we'd want to get more information about, given all that has been going on. And there's other projects that are in the works for that area of Charles Bancroft, and adding a fair amount of traffic, a lot of it probably going north. Those of us that travel that road on a commuter schedule can tell you that it's a pretty heavily traveled road now, and to add a fairly large influx of vehicles from this and other projects is something that really, I think the town needs to take a very close look at. I'm not sure that infrastructure would support that amount of traffic. Certainly, depending on how much traffic is coming in and out of St. Francis Way, there's no traffic light there. I'm not even sure there's a turning lane to go in there. That may be something that you'd have to consider. But I think that the traffic concerns, as far as as I think about it, I think that's something that would require a fair amount of attention when you come back to us. I would want to have a very good plan in place if this was going to go forward, as how you were going to abate any of the traffic problems that this would create.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may respond, you're absolutely right. That's a primary issue for us. There is currently a left turn turning lane heading northbound on Charles Bancroft Highway now, but the traffic is an issue that the engineers are looking at, and we have to address that to your satisfaction. During our staff meeting, it was called out to us, in particular, Jay called out to us some other projects in town, Reggie Moreau's residential project, the horse farm, there's traffic issues at Corning. So your staff has done a good job flagging these issues for us, and we will be addressing if we go forward with the project.
Thank you. The only other question I have is, and it's probably again too early in the process for abutters to be brought into this process, but
Well,
I don't know when that happens. Maybe Jay, you have an idea about when that might happen, but I'd be curious to see what the reaction is, at least on an initial stage, from the abutters.
I can tell you that I spoke with the business manager from St. Francis, told her all about what we're doing. I shared these plans with her. And I did the same with Pauline Ellis, who owns and operates New England Small Tube. They're our closest neighbor. I didn't hear anything back from Ms. Ellis, but Ms. Gerard of St. Francis expressed their interest in maintaining the tree buffers as much as possible. And the good news there is all the trees that you see in this plan, primarily on the St. Francis property. And anything else, we can supplement. We don't plan to cut down any trees. We don't have to. So we will be working with our neighbors. I have not reached out to any of the neighbors on Charles Bancroft yet. That will come in due time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just our last meeting that there was a presentation by St. Francis about the increasing enrollment in that school.
Yeah.
And so that will obviously be something we would need to look at as well. Thank you.
Understood.
Anyone else have any questions? I just had, going off of traffic, and you can tell that that's probably our biggest concern here. Deliveries made to Londonderry, Salem, that way, out east, would they expect the trucks to still be going all the way up to the new bridge and picking up like 93 that way? Or can we expect them to take Hillcrest across town?
No, that very question was put to the Barons at our initial meeting, and they said Salem, Londonderry, all head north to get onto the highway system, local as well as national. Local deliveries to Litchfield and Hudson, maybe Pelham. Local deliveries and installations are probably going to go down the Charles Bancroft Highway onto Webster Street and Hudson. But there's no, unless you have a delivery directly to Litchfield, there's no intent to go down Albuquerque or Hillcrest or anything like that.
Okay. And have you spoken with the Conservation Commission yet? Just out of curiosity.
We have not formally, just informally talking with Joan McKibben, but not formally with the Concom.
Okay. And are you aware of the walking trails that are down towards the river? It looks like you wouldn't be coming close to them as far as your development goes, but there are trails behind St. Francis that I know are frequented.
We are aware of them. The town is actually in a butter because the town's park property actually comes all the way down to down to our property right at the river bank. So yeah, we are aware of those, and we're not going to go anywhere near them.
Okay.
Can I just ask, is the concept here that this warehouse would be the only warehouse for Barron's major brands? That everything would be consolidated in this one location?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. And did you say they have 7 retail establishments?
Yes.
And do you know where they are? I know there's one in Nashua, maybe one in Salem, but do you know the other locations?
Manchester, Nashua, Salem, Plastow, Concord, Laconia, and Ossipee.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So a
Anyone
comment
else?
from Bob Clark. Yeah, Bob Clark and Stephen Gibson. Just a comment, not a question, but when you consider when the DOT considers the traffic, are they going to scope in the traffic survey there with Continental paving? It's pretty frequent on that road.
I'm not a traffic guy, but my understanding is there are existing traffic counts that take into account what's there today. And then we add our traffic anticipated traffic counts on top of that to assess traffic impact. So the answer is yes, we are aware of Continental's use of the road.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? I'll take Mr. Cochran's question as the public's question. So let's, I guess if that's all you have, Mr. Froman,
Thank you for having
I think
me.
we're all set. Thank you for coming.
Sure, we just want to introduce the project. We think it's a good project, so hopefully we're back before the board. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, next up is an application by Bernice Cahill for a lot line adjustment between lots 26 and 26-1 on tax map 13. No additional lots are created. Ms. Cahill, are you here to present your application?
Hi, well, this is her husband. How you doing?
Good, thank you. If you
Can you
could
hear me?
state your, yes, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yep. Yeah, my name is Harry Cahill, and my address is 72 Pinecrest Road.
Great. Thank you. If you'd like to give a quick overview of your application, we would be happy to hear it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm calling for my car. So we had subdivided the lot a few years back. The intent was to put a smaller house in the back, so we had gotten a variance. So we had gotten a right of way to go on the right side of the lot next door to, I believe it's 74, to go in there. So we never did anything but with that. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to get a lot out in the front, an acre lot on that application. We move the lot line back to its original where it was, cut out an acre in the front so that my son and his wife can build a house. I gotta assume they sent the plans to you. I'm not certain, but
Yes, we have the plans here.
oh, okay,
Let's
very
see.
good, thank you. So basically, we're just returning to the lot to what it originally was about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. And then we're just taking the 1 acre lot out in the front so that my son can hopefully build a house there.
Okay. Great. And I just want to double check with Jay that the application, everything is complete with the application.
Yes, it is. All fees were paid, abutters were notified, and the application is complete. We did note a couple of things in our staff report. None of them are major. But the application is complete for acceptance.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the application.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Is the sound cutting out from Town Hall? Sorry, I can't hear you guys.
Can you hear us, Kate?
Now I
Ron
can hear you.
seconded the motion.
Ron seconded. Okay, I couldn't hear that. I'm sorry. All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Buffetti and a second by Mr. Stevens. Do we have any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. Mr. Buffetti,
Yes.
Ms. Queenan,
Yes.
Dr. Queenan, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
and I am a yes, so motion passes 4-0-0. Okay,
Thank you.
and we have so we just approved or accepted your application, Mr. Cahill, and now I'd like to open it up to the board for any questions on the application.
Okay.
So it looks like the only thing that is missing is this issue about the water lines and the letter from the water company stating the availability of an intent to provide service to that lot. Can you just tell us what the
Okay.
what the story is with that?
I honestly, I didn't even know we needed a letter from the water company to put a line there, but I will gladly provide that. If I will definitely get that. I had someone come in and surveyed a lot. I'm not 100% sure what's needed, what's not needed. But I definitely can get a letter from the water company and provide it to the board.
So have you had discussions already with the water company?
No, I have not.
Okay. Do you anticipate any issues with that, of getting service to that lot?
No, I don't. I believe there's a line that runs right down the main street on Pinecrest, so I don't expect any issues whatsoever.
All right. No other questions? Let's see. So, Joan, I just want to double check that all the abutters have been notified and that all fees have been paid.
Yes,
Oh, she's not here, is she?
Not, no.
she's not, but I can verify
Okay.
that.
Thank you, Jay. I can't see quite well on that little tiny square in the screen. All right. All right. All fees have been paid. Documentation. Okay. Well, with that, it's if nobody else has any questions, then I'll entertain a motion on.
We may just want to double check to see
Oh.
if there's anybody in the audience,
Oh.
members of the public who wish to speak.
Thank you, Jay. Is there anyone from the members of the public that would like to speak on this application?
I just asked, this is Bob Cochran, 7 Gibson. Can someone explain, I don't know what it means, notes 8 and 9? They both end with no deed recovered. Does that mean there's no deed to that property, or I don't understand? You can read that. It's tiny.
I apologize. I'm going to zoom in and shift over. Yes, so there is an easement that has been shown on a plan, but there's no recorded document. So they're showing the right of way on the plan, and they're just noting that while it was shown on a plan, apparently no easement was ever recorded. So they're showing it for information, but they're also making a notation that they were not able to find any easement document.
Okay.
So in essence, it's there. It's something that's worth noting. The fact that it doesn't have a recorded easement that accompanies it is a bit problematic in kind of understanding what the intent was, what the use limitations are. So they're showing it really for information purposes.
Okay.
But it is shown.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from the public that has any questions or comments? All right. Hearing none, I'll close public input on this application. All right. So now, any other questions from the board?
Yeah, this is Kim. Do we have to
Yes, Kim.
mention the third bullet about the planning board signature lines?
It's an incredibly minor point, but it is in the regulations. So either we have to waive it, or they should amend the plan to relocate it. Minor as it is.
If we make any motions, we better include that.
Yes.
Just wanted to, I think we skipped it, so I just want to make sure it's there.
Yes.
So can I just ask, Jay, this easement issue, the 25-foot easement to the town, no deed was recorded by this office. I don't know what that means.
I think what they really mean is that no deed was found. When they searched the registry, they couldn't find a recorded deed for the easement.
The deed would have been something that the town would have filed?
So this is unfortunately not uncommon. We're careful about this today, but we weren't always. So sometimes what has happened is when a plan was proposed, an easement was either proposed by the applicant or requested by the town. They showed it on the plan, but there was no further, an easement deed was actually never created and recorded. And so again, today we would never do that. Today we would make sure that the easement deed was provided and that it was reviewed by town council and that it was recorded at the same time the plan was recorded. But unfortunately, historically, that wasn't always true. So we do find these scenarios where if you're researching at the registry, you will find a plan that shows an easement, but there's just no corresponding deed.
So does that easement exist? Does this town still have that easement?
That I don't want to speak as an attorney, but I would say it's an arguable point. It's an encumbrance on the property. So if you're a surveyor, you have to show it because you found it. But I think you would definitely wind up in a problematic area if the town were to attempt to assert their right to use it or anyone else, because there is no corresponding document. So that really makes it challenging. And of course, there's obviously when you have an easement document, you're going to talk about what is the usage, what are the limitations for usage, who maintains, and unfortunately, we don't have anything that would speak to that. Obviously, I suppose somebody could go back through minutes and maybe try to glean intent. But unfortunately, that looks like that's where we are.
And we don't even know when the easement was granted.
I don't. We could find out, but I don't know.
Okay. But do I understand it that the landowner granted the easement as part of the proposal to develop that section of land? Is that how that works?
I honestly don't know when it was done or whether it was associated with a development or not. It may have been simply that the property existed unsubdivided and at some point they were approached. So I'm really not sure how it came about. We could certainly do more research and find out. I'm just not sure.
No, I appreciate that. But in any case, it would have been the town's responsibility to record the easement, and they didn't do it. Is that right?
Ultimately, yes, that's right.
Okay. All right.
So Jay, with this application and they're showing an easement on this plan, it's still not, even if this application is approved, it doesn't mean that there's actually an easement there.
Yeah, I mean, this plan, approving this plan, if that were the will of the board, wouldn't affect the rights to that easement one way or another. They're simply showing it because they found it on a reference plan. It wouldn't grant more rights or take away any rights. It's just showing a condition that they discovered doing their due diligence.
So is it out of place to ask the applicant if they would be willing to grant an easement during this application?
Not necessarily. I think if it were the will of the board, I think the challenge would be understanding what the scope of that should be and why and whether there's still an interest on the part of the town to have an easement.
I believe there is an interest on the part of the town because this is the section of Pinecrest that the grant was applied for the extension of the sidewalk.
That's right.
I'm not sure which side of Pinecrest the sidewalk was planned for, but I believe this is the side that already
This is the
has the
side.
sidewalk, right?
It is this. It would have been this side, yes. The easement, though, is perpendicular to Pinecrest. It's this shaded area here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about the one across Pinecrest Road. So the shaded area is the one that is just not, that's a gray area as far as an easement goes for the town.
Right, because there's publicly owned land back here. It's actually not the town. There's land back here that says Department of Environmental Services. So that would be access back to this land back here.
Can I add something to this? the discussion?
I can reopen public comment
well,
on the application, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, at one time with that DES land, I believe it was owned, but I think it was privately owned before the state bought it years ago. At one time, there was talk about putting a new school back there. And I believe the original intent of that easement was to run power lines up there. Or some kind of access to it. But then the state stepped in and bought that property, and then nothing's been done with this at all. We had no issues. The last time when we did the subdivision, we have no intent on, I don't think there's, the house lot that we're putting in it, I mean, that's right on the edge of the lot, so I don't even think that's going to be affected whatsoever, so.
Okay, so then what is the will of the board? Is it, are we okay with this continuing as is? Because as the applicant said, there's no further plans to, for the state to go in about that, through that easement?
So I think the issue should be clarified, just because it makes sense to do that. However, I don't think that it's connected in any way to this proposal. That I see them as two separate issues. I would think that the landowner, if whoever's going to build that house on that new lot, he or she or them or they would probably want to clarify whether or not there's an easement that runs 25 feet along their property, and get that clarified. There may be no interest in this, and it may not be that easement is even good anymore, that it's been extinguished because of non-use. I don't know. But I think that it makes sense that should be clarified. However, I don't think that affects this application and what's before us. I am comfortable proceeding with approving with the conditions that are spelled out in the staff review, which is the amendment to the plan to show existing and proposed water lines, provision of a letter from the water company stating the availability of an intent to provide service to lots 13-26-1, and this very minor issue of the planning board signature lines relocated to the lower right-hand corner of the plan. With those conditions, I would make a motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, and I will, because I said I reopen up public input, I will just officially close it again before that, but just to button that up. So do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Queenan. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call vote. Mr. Buffetti?
Yes?
Dr. Queenan?
Aye. Yes.
Mr. Stevens? Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I am a yes. So that is motion, or your application is approved 4-0-0. So you are all set, Mr.
Thank you.
Cahill.
Okay, and that water line, that letter and that stuff will you send me that information or what I need, or, so I just want to make sure I get everything to you.
Yes, we'll send you a letter outlining the conditions.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yes, you as well. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next up on the agenda was updating the planning board fee schedule, but since Joan is not here, I don't think we're going to go through that tonight, unless Jay, you had more information on that.
I mean, I don't, of course, I'm happy to share it. If the board wants to take a look and go through it. I know Joan had mentioned this before, was something I think she was hoping would go forward to a public hearing. So I could certainly share it. and then we could make a decision, as to whether we want to go forward with it. There were really a couple of things I think that, again, she's not here to speak to what was of particular concern. She had mentioned fees around the escrow requirements for what was really required. But again, Joan's not here. I don't want to speak for her, so we could certainly defer it if to the next meeting if that's the will of the board.
I think because we don't know the exact changes that she was looking to do, I think we should defer it, but I'd like to hear what you all think.
Yeah, I would agree, Kate.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I got a copy of that, but I don't think I've seen it. Did you get a copy?
I did. I'm
Oh.
not sure about the minor subdivision still being
Okay.
that cost of 5,000. If it was like a simple lot line adjustment, if that's a lot of money. I'm not sure where she derived that 5,000, so maybe deferring it would be.
I'm not sure either. Honestly, I wonder if what was in the folder was the most recent version, because I know she had mentioned going from, looking, I thought she saw that 5,000 as prohibitive. So obviously deferring it makes sense.
That's how I understood it too. I don't think any changes have been made to this.
All right, and I was going to tag on another one. Well, I guess maybe it's under the next item, but we could, defer both to the same time if we'd like. That was, I had done a draft of an updated conditional use permit just to add the additional uses. Both of those need to go to public hearing, so it might make sense to just do them at the same time.
That makes sense.
Yes, I think that makes sense. Okay, so we will defer both the updating the fee schedule and the conditional approval regulation updates. Since these need to both go to public hearing, we'd like to consolidate those into one notice. Okay. Next up on the agenda is committee reports.
This is Kim. The next Board of Selectmen meeting is Monday, June 14th at 6:30 p.m. here at the Town Hall. At the moment, just look at the website for details if it's a remote meeting or in person. The next National Regional Planning Commission meeting will be Wednesday, June 16th. It's open to the public. Look at their website also. It's at 7 p.m. for meeting details. That's all I have.
All right. And as far as budget committee goes, we haven't really gotten into the season yet, so it's mostly just been things like updating bylaws and things like that. So nothing to report there. And same with, I don't have anything to report on the Hudson Logistics Center. As far as I know, it's still just being looked at, in the courts. So. Let's see. Approval of minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at? There they are. The May 18th, 2021 minutes.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
You.
All
Ron,
right.
second. Can you hear me?
Motion by Mr. Buffetti, second by Mr. Stevens. Mr. Buffetti.
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Queenan?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Approve the minutes by a vote of 4-0-0. And as far as any other business goes, I sent you all, I don't know if you saw the email I sent this afternoon. Did anyone have a chance to look at that? I know it was sort of last minute. It was about potential pedestrian traffic in the north end of town with all of the developments that are coming in. Let's see. I don't know, Jay, I sent that to you. Would you mind putting that up?
Bring it up. Can everybody see it?
Thank you. Okay. So this was sent to me by Jason Brennan, who is a member, or he's an alternate on the Conservation Commission. He was also a member of the Planning Board a number of years ago. And he has just been thinking about different ways to extend the bike path, essentially, what with all the development that's going in towards this north end of town. And I know I had mentioned it a little bit with the horse farm application, with the conceptual review. And I think he, must have been thinking the same thing because he sent this to me. This is he went through and looked at, this is a potential sidewalk along 3A. And as he notes on there, it's 1,800 feet of sidewalk. And then his other idea was creating a trail system going from that potential development across Moores Falls down through the Thoreau property. That's where there's potentially a gas station application coming in, and across St. Francis, and then through those Colby properties that Mr. Perlman was talking about earlier in the evening. And then using that right away towards the south to get to Charles Bancroft and across there and meet up with the bike path at the end of Albuquerque. You can see in the pink. There is, of course, the issue of crossing Charles Bancroft. And as far as I know, it has, never been entertained to have a crosswalk across there. Jay, do you know if that is, like, how long ago that was even asked of the DOT, or if it is just a known, like, they just don't entertain those applications?
Well, honestly, and maybe it's a bit of a, editorializing somewhat, but I think that, first of all, under our site plan regulations for both commercial sites and for multifamily specifically, addressing pedestrian access and circulation, including between sites, is within the purview of the board. So considering these, I think is important. And I think, the board's absolutely empowered to do that. But I think this is a conversation we definitely want to be having with DOT. And I think, as is obvious, we have a lot of development happening in this area. And it's really, I think, important for us to be looking at the cumulative impact of all of these, and that includes the impact of pedestrians. So I think this is an appropriate time to raise, the importance of considering some sort of way for pedestrians to cross, particularly since on the horse farm property, we've got, residents who are going to live, will be living on the other side of 3A. So I think access to the, a multi-use trail just makes sense, looking at how to do that safely. And so, yeah, I think that should be a part of the overall discussions with DOT about traffic in this area.
And is that something that the town would apply for, or we could, I guess, potentially ask an applicant to apply during their talks with DOT?
I think it's fair to raise it to the applicant, and this is a concern of the town, and it would make sense for them to raise it. And it probably would also make sense, to have staff present at a scoping meeting that's scheduled with DOT, because I think that it's really important to make sure that all the developments that we are aware of that are in the planning process are included within the scope of the review. DOT will be aware of, for instance, the gas station. They're aware of that because they've had conversations with them. But if they haven't had a conversation with an applicant, they may not be aware of the background. There would have been no reason for St. Francis to have gone to the DOT to talk about their increase in enrollment, as an example. So I just hope that we could have an opportunity to be a part of those conversations and really be able to drive some solutions that are in the best interest of the town, because it's not an insignificant increase, I think, that we'll be looking at when all these projects are taken together. They still might say no, but I think it's worth having that
Yep.
conversation.
So, and that's where I wanted to get all of your input and ideas about this, because is this way off base with what we're trying to, what we would be trying to accomplish, I guess, with going along with the master plan, and which way should we be heading towards? Because I know that I personally have been trying to work in some sidewalks along with the new developments that have gone into town. But if there are other things that we need to be looking at as a board, I would like to hear your thoughts.
Oh, you can't see me? I have a few concerns. I'm not saying they can't be talked about, but being a state road, I'm not sure we can force people to do it that are the landowners over there. And looking at that bike path in the back of the woods again, I just don't know if they want to have the liability. It's private property. I would have Jason work with conservation also, because they have a master plan they're working on that works with some of the recreational land. And I would just want to make sure that the right people are involved. I'd say Board of Selectmen, maybe for courtesy, should look at this also. But again, I just don't know if we can force people to put sidewalks on. If two of them want to do it and one doesn't, then we have something kind of chaotic over there. But I do
Absolutely.
understand that light, what's that road across from Dark Hole? What's that one called? Which starts with a, what's the main road?
Corning?
Corning, yeah, I can see where some sidewalks and may be needed there. But again, I just don't know if we have authority to do it. I know we just finished our transportation chapter. And we do want to tie neighborhoods together. I'm looking at his, is it an image 0? Which one is the one with the bike paths in the back? That's the one with the sidewalk, right?
Yep, he has concept S for sidewalk and concept P for pedestrian, I believe.
So you already have an applicant that's kind of in front of us already, a couple of them. And now you're kind of bringing this to them after the fact. I don't know if that's fair, but
Well, we haven't had any applications. It's only been
it's still conceptual. But again, they don't know they're
Conceptual.
about to leverage this cost either, you know? So again, I don't know if it's a fair thing, and I don't know if being a state road, if we have authority to do anything about it, other than ask.
If it's on a state road, it does require DOT approval. So DOT would have to agree for the installation of a sidewalk because that is DOT controlled. That's a DOT controlled section. So it can the town ask? Yes, but DOT would have to approve it.
Then you have setbacks, and then you have water roll-off issues. You know, it's just a lot.
Mhm.
And maybe the owner does not want to do it, or maybe they do. You talked
yes,
about
absolutely.
a pool of money. I don't know if a person would want to put money into a pool of money later, and then they have no say on where it goes afterwards for sidewalks, but that's logistics later.
That was my other question is, we kind of have this chance with a lot of developments right now going into town. And I know that other towns offer, that or they require that sidewalks be put in with development. And I believe, Jay, you had said they sometimes give an option of adding into that fund versus building it themselves. So that's another way that we can say, put money into it into a fund that is, working towards our master plan development. If it doesn't, because it may or may not make sense, like you said, to concentrate on putting a sidewalk or trail system in this area of town. If there are more other areas in town that would have more pedestrian traffic.
Right. So that's not uncommon at all to have a requirement that new developments put in sidewalk, and then but they have the option of paying into an in lieu of sidewalk fund based on usually their frontage. And then those funds could be used for, sidewalk improvements that benefit the town, such as an example, Pinecrest, completing the sidewalks on Pinecrest, which is of townwide benefit because it connects schools. So
Mhm.
that would be an example. That's definitely something that could be considered.
So I think it's just something worth considering, because it's not very often that we get a ton of development in town. And I mean, these are things that, or these are relatively small things in the master plan that we can help, or we can work with developers to help fund. And sometimes I think that, we do our best to have the developer work within our regs, but we're not really asking for much else. And when we can do that, and if it's not, and like I said, if it's not sidewalks, is there something else that we should
Right.
be looking towards?
But I think it's just important to note that, right now, under section 120.2 of the site plan regulations, it does say that provisions for pedestrian circulation within the site and between the site and adjacent uses and public rights of way shall be clearly delineated. So we already have a requirement, while it doesn't necessarily specifically say sidewalks, we do already require that a site plan does have to address pedestrian connections within the site and between adjacent sites and public rights of way. So that's already there. So it's not unreasonable to then ask the question, have you addressed this and how are you going to address this? And then kind of once again, we also have under 120.2A language specific to multifamily residential, which again talks about the use of interconnecting walkways, trails, and natural walking paths shall be integral to the development of the site, et cetera. So this language is already there. So it's something that we can leverage, should we choose to.
I just think it's a tough sell with the trail in the back. If one of the property owners does not want it there, got pieces of a trail. So I think conservation maybe should, or the town build relationships with these people and ask, I just don't know if we should just demand it. I don't know if we have authority to demand it.
And importantly too, this is Moore's Fall, so this is already town-owned land back here and along the river.
Yeah, but not where that path, where the proposed path is, but I know I see that.
Not where this is, but this is, this is one suggestion. There are also walking paths back along the river, which is something else that the board could look at if it wishes to.
That's right. It could go all the way back down through Morris Falls, so you can see the right of way to the west of, St. Francis and Thoreau property. And that's where I think that just ends there in the middle of those Colby properties.
Right.
And that's where I believe Mr. Brennan was looking at if they would allow, public access up here on the Colby property, closer to the road. It would be even further away from their buildings as far as walking along that property.
Right. And there may
Right.
even be potential to connect to St. Francis Drive itself, so that there's a connection between a public right of way and the trails along the river. Again, if that were a desire.
Yeah. And if these, you're right, if these are not proposals that the board would be interested in, then I think we need to at least look at coming up with some kind of funding of, like Jay had said, asking about those requirements to address pedestrian traffic between sites, because it's not something that we do right now. And now we're applying for grants, for sidewalks instead.
Right.
So, does anybody have any other thoughts? We can always, of course, we'll take this up at other meetings too. Okay. Then,
Okay.
any other business after that? Thank you, Jay.
Absolutely. So just want to say for, the next time we were interested in talking about potential zoning changes, I did do a little drafting, perhaps somewhat ironically. I did come up with a concept on language that might eliminate, I should say limit, warehousing and distribution facilities. So when we're ready to have a discussion on those, I do have some drafts.
Is that something that we can talk about tonight, or it should probably be on an agenda?
I thought we had potential zoning amendments on the agenda, but maybe I missed that.
Oh, we do regulation updates, but we had
Oh, it's
talked about the
regulation
ones going to
Yeah,
public
we
hearing.
don't have to discuss it this evening. What I can do is, when appropriate, if we want to discuss them at the next meeting, do something more like a workshop, I'd be happy to circulate what I've got and, we could have a more in-depth conversation.
I think that would be best. It'd be nice to see everything ahead of time to digest it.
Agreed.
Okay. If that's all we have tonight, then I believe I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second. All right. Roll call vote. Mr. Raffetti,
Yes.
Dr. Queenan,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Meeting is adjourned at 8:06 with a vote of 400. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.